It always was very difficult to live in Russia when I was beaten up very badly and got the police officer says to me, so I know who beat you up. I know those people, but I'm not going to open up your case because you're a faggot, you have to blame yourself. And that's why I realized nobody could protect me, only myself.
Thanks so much for meeting with me today. Can you tell me a little bit more about who you are?
My job was teaching. I was one of the first people in Russia who brought up the topic queer and LGBTQ in political sciences at all. Finally, I managed to escape.
This is how democracy looks like. This is how democracy looks like.
Here I'm raising my voice and been doing a lot of activism.
I was persecuted by Russian government. I was forced to leave my home country because of being gay professor. I lost that motherland, but I found another land of dream, land of hope here.
Russia, right? Russia's on everyone's mouths, especially in the US right now. Can you help me better understand what's going on in Russia regarding anti-LGBTQ laws, attitudes, things of that nature?
Under Putin's regime, LGBT is one of the targets, which is under some kind of ban. And if you are openly gay, lesbian, transgender, probably you will be, in the better case, fired. Worst scenario, you will be dead. Since 2013, the law came out called propaganda of non-traditional values. Nobody understands what does it mean, traditional values in Russia, because Russia never was a traditional country, let me say. And the first victims, it was us who worked in the public sphere, and we were forced to leave, forced to hide ourselves and back to the closets. And because I was bringing up awareness towards LGBT and gender studies, I was targeted by the government. And all of a sudden, I got people who watched my house. When I will go back to home in the nighttime, I will get a lot of calls in intercom, on my cell phone, threats, you're a faggot, you have to die, and a lot of things. And I had to move from my apartment. I have to hide myself. Eventually, I had to decide something, and without any notice, I left Russia for the United States. I just packed my bag and almost didn't tell anybody.
Can you break down for me what is outlawed exactly in the propaganda law?
So, if you're promoting something about LGBTQ at school or at kindergarten, you're under the target. But as most of Russian laws, there is no structure. It's very well brought law. And they started using this law against activists, political activists, so who opposed Putin, who opposed his regime, and who opposed this social and sexual order. All of the people, even straight people, who look differently, who look feminine, who look a little bit, in their sense, gayish, they will be fired, they will be followed by secret services, as I was.
So it seems very subjective in a way.
Absolutely.
I mean, it seems like there are levels to the law, but it seems like it could really target anybody.
Because it's not for protecting people, for protecting children and youth.
It's controlling people's minds.
It's controlling people's minds. Putin, he's been in the power 15 years for now. And because socially and economically, the country was falling apart, Putin realized they need somebody to blame. Internally, they picked LGBT and they picked different ethnic groups. Externally, they picked, of course, old enemy, the United States. And it's kind of intertwined because the United States, it's a progressive country, governments start just paying attention in terms of LGBTQ. And it's getting worse and worse and worse, and we have to do something.
Let's put into context what's going on in Chechnya. And I think Chechnya is obviously different than other parts of Russia.
Chechnya is, yes, it's a very different region. It's now has become very religious, a radical Muslim region because of certain people in the power, like Ramzan Kadyrov. He is the closest ally of Putin. So Putin and Ramzan Kadyrov have an agreement. Putin gives him money, Ramzan Kadyrov gives him loyalty. Ramzan Kadyrov created some kind of independent kingdom inside Russia.
The whole world has united against our country, against the nation. They seek every opportunity to counter Putin. The name Kadyrov is heard everywhere, but nothing is said about those who are corrupt. There is no evidence of any crime that they accuse me of.
He decided that he's some kind of prophet there, and he put a lot of restrictions. So LGBT people there always been targeted, always been under the certain traditions. So there is no LGBTIQ people, as Ramzan Kadyrov declared.
Right.
When men in the power, women are not allowed to be in social place, and because LGBTIQ people is out of those binaries, they are not, in a sense, men, they are not women, they are seen, there's some kind of disease on our body. If somebody discovers that you are gay, they will be kidnapped, they will be put in some particular facilities, will be tortured and killed. Some of them will put in front of the camera, and they were forced and pushed to make a confession. And they will record it and send it to their families and to their workforces. And it's a big shame to be a part of LGBT. A few months ago, in February 2017, Russian journalists from Novaya Gazeta started receiving some reports from Chechnya about people who were detained, accused in LGBTIQ activities. They were raped, they were tortured by electric shock, and some of them who managed to escape gave testimony. And she put photos attached to her article, people who were almost burnt with bruises and all of those burns from the electric shock.
What message do we need to send to not only to people in America that are watching this, but people around the world?
What we can do, we can push here the United States government to open the gate for particular people who will come, to issue them particular visas. And we have to push European countries which have become more radical towards immigrants lately.
We're in a time of great uncertainty, and are we going to be allowing LGBTQ people from other countries into our country when we're actually going through what I feel like is our own cleansing?
That hope, we still have constitution. They still have right to protest. They still have the First Amendment. We still can do something. We can rise up and protest, and it's going to be the second wave of civil rights movement back to 60s. It's happening right now.
LGBTQ people are being tracked in your country. Was that the catalyst for you to say, okay, like it's time for me to get out of here? Or what was that catalyst?
Physical abuse wasn't catalyst to leave the country. Worst thing, not physical abuse. Because if they break through your spiritual, let's say, state of mind, it's worse than physical. So bruises could be healed, but your trauma and repression against yourself, because 80% of our guys who come here, they repressed, they homophobes towards themselves. That's why they live with trauma. They live with a lot of bruises on their hearts and souls, and they cannot recover themselves, because there you have to get up and you have to move forward.
What does that feel like to have to leave your home behind and leave your family behind and leave the people you know?
It's tough. It's tough because, you know, when I was leaving, I wasn't thinking much because it was like rush time. I had to do something.
You just had to get out. And so you arrived to New York and you really had no concept of your possibilities here or how you would survive. Can you walk me through what it's like to get asylum here for anybody?
You have to arrive to the United States under tourist visa or under another visa. Don't claim asylum in the airports. You will be put in detention. You have to find pro bono lawyers if you don't have money, and they will take your case and will walk you through the whole statement. Now you have to wait until you get your interview for 2.5 years. During those 2 years, you have to prepare your case. You have to bring evidence that you were persecuted, you were threatened. After 6 months, you can get your work permit, your work authorization, and you will be legally authorized to work for all organizations except government. After that, you interviewed by immigration officer. If you got approved, within 2 weeks and probably a little bit more, you will get your notification, you're granted asylum indefinitely. If you didn't get it after interview, your case will be transferred to immigration court, and you have to wait additional 3-5 years. So it's very long-going process right now, and that's why people get frustrated.
Can you tell me about your organization?
Our organization, Rus LGBT, for last 3 years we've been working with asylum seekers, helping them with medical care, connected to lawyers, connected to their some basic needs. And we do a lot of political protests.
No fear! Refugees are welcome here! No fear! Refugees are welcome here!
We done recently protest against Chechnya. We protested in front of Russian consulate. The first Russian-speaking pride in Brighton Beach. Brighton Beach is a primarily Russian-speaking resettlement area. It remains homophobic and very conservative and hostile towards LGBTQ communities. And 70% newcomers, they will settle down there because of language, because of cultural similarities, and they face discrimination and physical abuse there. So that's why it's very important to raise our voice, to stand up for our community, to be involved politically, socially, and educationally.